You're listening to Dirty Feet, a podcast from No More Radio.
Vous écoutez le podcast Dirty Feet sur les ondes de No More Radio.
Hosted by,
animé par
Allison Burns,
JD Papillon
et Stéphanie Morin-Robert.
Stay tuned.
We're gonna move you.
Hello and welcome to yet another Dirty Feet podcast. And today we have a very special episode, and if I'm not mistaken, probably our biggest. We're surrounded by many wonderful, talented people from around the world, whether it's from close by here in Montreal or all the way from Wales. So it's a really excited day for us. Dance Roads, Bande d'essais internationaux. It's a collection of works that will be presented from the 8th till the 10th of May at 19:30, so 7:30 at Studio Hydro-Québec du Monument National. For more information after listening to this podcast, of course, you can visit danceroads.eu for all of the fun stuff, including bios and all of that. Already the 25th anniversary of Dance Roads. It's actually Tangent's longest surviving dance touring network project, which is quite impressive. So every 2 years, 5 young dance creators tour side by side in 5 venues, which gives them a chance to meet each other, to network, and to show their work in different locations. For some of these choreographers, it's their first time in Montreal, which is exciting for us to kind of share this moment with them. We've got so many people here, so I think what we're going to do is I'll ask the choreographer just to present yourself, so say your name and the title of the work that you're here to present. So we'll start.
Je suis Andrea et mon travail s'appelle I Meet You If You Want.
I'm Jasper and I made Quite Discontinuous.
Hello, I'm Jo and I'm a choreographer and I created a piece called Dialogue, a double act.
I'm Sarah Bransard and I created a piece called Ce qui émerge après 4 kilos.
Et I am Taylor Troncy and I choreographed Je ne suis pas permanent.
Wonderful. So as I said before, people from all over. We've got Andrea, who's from Italy, which is really lovely. Is this your first time in Montreal?
Yes, this is the first time.
First time in Montreal. And did you guys all arrive this morning? How jet lagged are you? So we could put the listeners in context of.
Yeah, I was wondering whether to come today because in moments before I was slurring, so it's okay.
Wonderful. So this is a platform that allows you to bring your work to a whole different level. And after reading some of your bios, and we won't go in detail for everybody since it's such a big episode, I realized that these are works that you've presented before, and it's a chance to give second life to the work. I know Sarah, 4 kilos.
Oui, en fait, c'était une pièce qui a été créée il y a 2 ans, 4 kilos, mais dans le cadre de la tournée Dance Roads, en fait, ça devait être une nouvelle création ou une reprise, une recréation. Parfait. Donc, tout le monde, c'est un peu des pièces assez fraîches, en fait. La plupart, c'est des pièces, comme je pense que Jasper aussi, c'était à partir d'une création qui avait déjà été faite, mais c'était repris dans le cadre de la tournée. Donc, on est tous avec du matériel vulnérable un peu et fébrile.
So really giving a second life or a first life to a complete new work. When you're, I guess we can say, remixing or revisiting work that you've already created and giving it a fresh new start, what are tools that you've used to do that? And was this project Dance Roads? Was this an opportunity to do it? And what pushed you to revisit work? I guess this would be mostly for Jasper.
Yeah, it's quite funny because I thought it would be very easy. We had a full evening performance and we just extracted the last 15-minute do it out of it. And the task was to make a 20-minute version for it to go on tour. And I thought, we're just going to take it. We'll add some things to the scene and we'll be there. But we missed so much information because we missed the whole 40 minutes before that. In Cardiff, we did a research in Cardiff. All of us came to Cardiff for 2 weeks. And we were busy with, some people started creation there, I think. Some people already had stuff when we got there. But it was really hard for me to find a new way into something that was already so established and finished. Now we accidentally had a falling out of a cast member, so we had a few days to retake it with a new dancer. And now we're at the point that it completely made sense because we have a new energy into the work. It really, really helps me. It's not so far from what it was, but there's a new sense of warmth within the piece and within the two guys that are quite close in contact with each other. Yeah, it's easier than I thought it would be. And Cardiff was harder than I thought it would be. It was very interesting, yeah.
And what's interesting about that is the theme of your work is dealing with death and the different emotions that emerge through that. And death could also be something of losing somebody. So it's interesting to see how you lost a cast member and how the work lived on and the emotions through that and how the work evolves.
Yeah, no, it's very true. We've been so busy with death, and when we started creating, when we started, it sounds horrible. But when we started creating, we all, in 2 weeks' time, we got so depressed with everything that we did because we were so focused on death. And then at a certain point in the process, we got so cold about it. It didn't become that heavy for us anymore. We got very abstract about it. So I don't even look at it as dealing with death anymore. It's more loss, losing a connection between two people. It's not so much death anymore, though that was the initial starting point of the concept and of the full evening version. It's becoming a little bit more dry. It's still interesting, though.
And I have a question for Joe, actually. Maybe talk to us a little bit about the influence of your work. I know that there's a moving film that inspired the work and how you came across this film and if your work always has an outside source of inspiration.
Yeah, the film that you're talking about is called In My Language. It's by a lady called Amanda Baggs, and she's actually an activist for rights for people with autism. But, that sounds all very it's about communication. So it's about valuing different forms of communication, which kind of rings quite well with me because like talking or speaking or a conversation is not my first language, actually. I sort of consider my first language to be my body and physical expression and gesture. And so I think the piece was it was a very nice thing to make. It was because it was about communication. I invited a lot of people into the studio and we played audience members and we played performers, and I think it was very a sort of delightful way really to start a new creation. We left it very open, but it's just about making connections with people, about meeting people and about understanding and also misinterpretation as well. So it's been very it's been very fascinating to kind of create a new language for this, and what's interesting is it about having audiences there. It's a kind of piece that really needs the presence of others watching. So it's all very about spontaneity and maybe something that's quite alive, really, in the moment. And the dancers, they are. Yeah, they're very talented because it sort of reminds me of something of stand-up in a way, because you have to respond in the now. Making about communication is so. You want to be able to say things clearly, but we're not always able to do that. That was a very good demonstration of it.
For this specific work, you've presented it before?
We did a sort of preview in Cardiff just before we came, and we did a very nice programme of work, all inspired by the film. The film that we presented before the live work, was called Watching, and it was really about watching small things, watching audiences and how they receive work. And it's you watch all these tiny expressions of people, and you read into that. You read into what it is that they're watching. And then when the performers appeared, it was very nice because I felt that the audience were very tuned to how to receive the work. And I think it's quite there's something for the performers about taking the audience with them, sort of trying to carry, and I'm very interested in how this will go. We work a lot with verbal language and physical language in the piece, so I'm very interested to know how the piece will sort of be seen in all of these different countries that we're going to go to. And also, I guess it's sort of part of the piece really is that how much do we understand without knowing the verbal language? So that would be really interesting to see.
Especially for a project like Dance Roads, where there is this element of globality to it, of many different cultures, many different influences and approaches meeting together. Is this one of the things that brought you to apply for this project?
I was asked to be a part of it. I think I've been making work a long time, but actually I performed a lot, so I guess my main income was through performing, so you always put your own work to the side, and now I'm beginning to sort of give it a bit more attention, and it's just a brilliant opportunity really to be supported in this way. So I'm very happy to be with this group of I'm very excited to see what they've done because I haven't seen them since the summer, so
an interesting link with that, we've got communication through the body, verbal communication, and then I'd like to jump over to Je ne suis pas permanent. I'm curious because we're talking about a whole different thing that's maybe not tangible, whether it's memory or imagination. So maybe talk about your approach in your work and how.
So in this piece, we try with Pauline, who is the interpreter of the performer of the piece. So in the piece with Pauline, we try to find a way how things emerge in the body, how mind makes the expression of the body emerge, and how it falls apart and how it disappears. And we specifically looked at the idea of holding. So I have a sensation that I want to keep. I have a shape that I want to keep, and how it disappears. And what is her actually, because it's more about what she feels. But so I asked her like, okay, what do you feel? How does it go? And can you make it last longer? So what I work with the concept of impermanence is more the feeling of attachment to the things that come and how much I want to keep the things. It really refers to something that happens to me in my life recently. My mother passed away a year and a half ago, and when the theater in Bordeaux proposed to me to make a piece, I was like, I wanted to work on this, on death and belonging and feeling connected to someone and loss. And I was not ready to really like go on my own and perform this piece. So actually I asked like, maybe it's a good opportunity to work with someone, and how can we express, how can we touch this issue and this very translate it into another body, and not becoming less personal, but less emotional, like directly emotional to it. And how can we reach emotions in different ways?
So that's a lot of responsibility for to pass on to your dancer, and you have to have a lot of trust with this person. How did you go about selecting Pauline as your dancer for this piece, which is so closely, very, very personal to you?
Actually, I think it was so personal that actually I haven't shared that much about it. It's like pretty recently that I did share where it came from, and I have been very reserved in the way we shared artistically. So it was more not abstract, but I wasn't naming it that it came from this event in my life, from my personal. So and more, it's really like at the beginning of the process, that's how it started. And I feel the more we go towards the premiere, which happens next week, it comes back to like the essence. So, and I will answer to the question just after. So actually the first real emotion we shared, like it was last week. Actually, we had rehearsal, first day of starting again rehearsals, and it's the first time I shared actually something very personal about that moment of passing away. And it was the beginning and the end in a way. Like, okay, now we can actually start working. And something in me was resisting of really sharing, and I think that's the piece really started last week actually to happen. And like the communication with each other really like took a further step. And how I chose Pauline, I met her I teach in Bordeaux in a professional dance education, and she was a student. And I found her very interesting in her proposition and how she was she was very friendly, and I really liked her. So it felt like a continuity of our relationship, artistic relationship. And when the Globe Theatre in Bordeaux asked me to make a piece and for this Dance Roads, I was like, I think she's the right person, and I think she's the right person for this project.
And when you did share that more personal aspect of the creation, when you did say where it actually came from to her, did you feel that the work changed the way she interpreted it, or did you feel that she had grasped enough of an understanding of the work without having it alter her approach to the work?
I think there is a big step that happened, and especially because we worked on physical states, and first of all, the material, she really integrates it in her body and how it comes and how it emerges, and she feels more safe with it and confident. So actually states, and it's very, in a way, it's very theatrical. It's very how emotions emerge, so how it comes and makes her smile or it makes her anxious. So she works really live with this, and I think to share intimacy, the more we go, I think in the artistic relationship, the more we go with intimacy, I think, and vulnerability, the further we can go, and I feel we are getting further and further with that.
A really interesting word that's come back is feeling vulnerable. And I think coming into a country for the first time, the feeling of not knowing, not having necessarily your family, friends close, being in a completely new scene. And how I would love to know how that's been, and a week away from the opening, how you guys are dealing with that.
Hello, Laura. It's my name. Yeah, being vulnerable is a massive state that we visit a lot as we're working, and I think it's been really exciting to get to the point where sometimes you feel vulnerable and you have that impulse to protect or to control, and we're encouraged to maybe stay a few seconds longer in that place, and you get this huge burst of energy and excitement from realising something will be different because I'm not going to go and do what I always do. And then from that, what's going to happen? Suddenly the space is different, and your view becomes different, and your relation becomes different. So to go to a new city and to have real newness around you, like voices and sounds and everything, is a charge for us. It's and it's a good charge. It's excitement because we know that we're looked after here, so it's exciting. It's not being dumped in the middle of nowhere with nowhere to stay, like that kind of change. It's like a welcome. So I think for us, we're buzzing, we're trembling, buzzing, really, really, really pleased to be here. Is
this the first location of the 5 venues?
Yeah.
And are you guys all going to your hometowns?
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay? That's wonderful. So, donc Sarah, c'est bien pour toi pour la première d'être chez toi.
Oui. Yes, it's great because we all met in Cardiff for 2 weeks in September, and I feel it's really it created a really strong sense of a family, I guess. We're all, and I brought my baby in Cardiff, and he's coming on tour with us again. And for me, it's when you talk about vulnerability, it's a really intense time in my life right now, and feeling that I can bring my baby on the tour and that we're all there together. I feel it's personally, it's really powerful and intense, but beautiful. So I'm happy that we start here, and then we'll go on tour.
Yeah, and maybe let's talk a little more about your work
yes,
and about your piece.
I forgot to talk about it.
This is the perfect chance. We're in Montreal, and it's the first stop of 5.
Yes.
So I guess everybody could take notes of like, oh, when we're in my hometown, I'm gonna bring you guys here, or I'll show you this. So it's you're breaking the ice for this one, and talk about your work a little bit.
Yes. So it used to be just as Jesper explained, like it used to be just redoing the piece that I created 2 years ago. But I guess because of all what happened in my life in the last year and a half, mainly maybe my baby is born, and there's also a lot of other things going on in my personal life, and I really needed to push aside everything and start from scratch, I would say. And I thought I didn't know, like when we were in Cardiff, I was thinking I would do a completely new piece, but since then, a lot of things came back from 4 kilograms, the other piece, but I needed to allow myself to see what would come back in itself, and not force things to be in the piece. So the 4 kilograms I was really interested in the amount of what we have to lose for something new to happen, I would say. Like it was, the 4 kilograms was the weight of dead skin cells that we lose over a year. Like it's around 4 kilograms. So I was interested in that. And also there was the cicada, the insect, its path, like its path in life. It goes on the earth for many years, and then it comes back, just come out for 2 or 3 weeks just to reproduce, and then it dies. And I thought that was an image that I loved, and the sound was really interesting to me. So for the 4 kilograms, we built a robotic installation, and the robots were vibrating, like it's a mason jar top, like they were vibrating the way the muscle in the cicada moves to make the singing. So I was interested to work again with it. So for the new piece, this is part of the piece again. And it's funny because for 4 kilograms, it was about reproduction, and I had a baby. I got pregnant like a month after, so it's pretty linked to my personal life, the pieces. And now, I guess ce qui émerge après is, I would say that it feels like I'm in the middle of a tornado, in the center when it's very calm, but you know that if you move too much, you're gonna get to start to spin. So I think the piece is really about that attention, that really a lot of attention into what's going on really close to you. And I feel the piece is like maybe a meditation, or on what's always transforming. It's a constant transition. I feel the piece is really about that, always being in a movement. Like, I don't know if I answer the question. There's a lot of things to say, but I think that's maybe giving an idea of the piece.
We've mentioned the importance of building this community, this family, as you guys have mentioned, and creating these new relationships. And Andrea, ta pièce, en fait, is very much about relationships. Qu'est-ce que tu pourrais nous dire justement sur cette façon-là que tu as d'approcher les relations? Ça semble vraiment au centre, en fait, de tes créations.
Oui, je pense parce que, en fait, pour créer I Meet You If You Want, je suis parti avec des idées. je me suis questionné avec sur l'importance que peuvent avoir cette rencontre dans la vie. Et comment cette genre d'encontre, de mémoire et tout ça reste dans ta vie aussi quand la personne n'est plus là, à ta côté. Donc, et puis, parallèlement, j'ai pris de petites suggestions avec la mythologie, donc les mythes de l'androgyne de Platon. Et c'était ça. Donc j'ai cherché de créer une image qui c'est une archétype, quelque chose pareil, semblable. Et puis à partir de cela, j'ai commencé à évoluer l'image et la bouger dans l'espace. Parce que je pense et je veux travailler dans cette situation, dans cette direction. Donc partir d'une image très forte qui peut toucher directement l'histoire, la vie personnelle de chacun. Et puis à partir de cela, je cherche d'écrire la partie chorégraphique. Et quand même, dans cette direction, j'ai commencé à penser, donc s'il y a quelqu'un dans ma vie et puis il n'y a plus cette personne dans ma vie, qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Premièrement, il y a la sensation physique d'avoir quelqu'un de toucher quelqu'un, donc la possibilité de le voir et de le sentir sentir on dit ça, non? Oui. Ok. sur les corps, le poids et tout ça. Et puis quand il va disparaître, cette sensation peut rester aussi dans l'espace et dans la vie aussi, parce qu'ils sont ensemble. Et donc, il va créer une image, une mémoire, parce que j'ai cherché de travailler sur ça, sur les mémoires, en effet. Voilà.
Et au niveau de ta pièce, c'est quelque chose qui a été créé en collaboration avec tes interprètes. Est-ce que tu avais déjà une idée assez forte de cette approche?
Oui, quand Mosaico Dance, c'est le partenaire italien qui m'a demandé de proposer, de créer cette création pour le Tour Dance Road. Donc, il m'a demandé une nouvelle création avec deux interprètes. Je pensais tout de suite à Manolo, qui est notre danseur et interprète, performeur italien. Et nous sommes connus dans une autre pièce, et dans cette pièce-là, qui s'appelle Noable, nous sommes c'est une création en collaboration. Donc je suis chorégraphe et Manolo aussi, il est chorégraphe. Pour cette création en particulier, à Meet If You Want, je suis le seul chorégraphe, mais quand même absolument les idées de Manolo et l'énergie de Manolo, ils m'ont aidé pour chercher de traduire les sensations et les idées que j'avais sur notre corps. Et ça, c'est très difficile, et c'est très, très intéressant de voir l'idée qui devient physique sur mon corps et puis chercher de la traduire sur un autre corps. Ça, c'est très intéressant parce qu'en fait, ça genre, dans l'histoire de ma pièce, par exemple, il y a un certain point une division parce qu'il y a s'il y a quelqu'un proche de toi et puis il n'y a plus cette personne, peut-être aussi qu'il y a eu des malentendus, quelque chose qui n'est pas capable à comprendre, je ne sais, à comprendre. Et c'est exactement ça qu'il est arrivé dans la pièce, parce qu'en fait mes idées dans l'esprit et puis dans le corps, ça devient une autre chose sur un autre corps, et ça a été très intéressant.
Et au niveau de la difficulté de partager en fait cet aspect-là de la création, de partager cet aspect plus intellectuel de la création, mais de rendre ça compréhensible justement à un public. En fait, ma question est un peu pour Manolo aussi. So how was it to have to translate this aspect of his creation out into a body, out into like a visual way that people would understand?
Yes.
Speaking of translation,
I translate the.
But you could say it in Italian.
Ok. Cerco di capire quello che vuole Andrea per ricreare la stessa sensazione, è un po' più difficile.
Il a cherché, alors, Manolo il a dit qu'il a cherché de traduire mes idées, mes sensations dans son corps, ce que j'avais dit.
Oh, this is exciting. Do any of you guys speak Italian for when you'll be in Italy?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, but how much, or what's the schedule? It's actually really interested to know what the schedule's like. Right now, you guys are in Canada, in case you didn't know.
Hi,
Canada?
Carol speaking. It's a 5-week tour starting in Montreal, obviously. And then on Sunday we leave for Bordeaux, and the artists are there for a week. And then they come back to Cardiff where they originally met for another week, then Turin, and we finish in Arnhem. I think that's on the 6th of June. So yeah, it's about 5-6 weeks. So they're all travelling together as well. So a lot of fun will be had, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. There's 13 in total. So yeah, it's unlucky for some. 13 people travelling together. Yeah. And in Montreal, we also have Emmanuel Grivet, who's the project mentor. So he's worked with each choreographer in their own countries, as well as the 2 weeks when they were in Cardiff. So Emmanuel's working with Sarah this week, and he's here for the premiere. And we'll just help to sort of shape and pull out the bits for each choreographer. And then after that, they're free.
So far from what's been mentioned, a lot of the works gravitate towards the choreographer's own personal experience quite a bit, and something that is very personal. And I guess presenting something that's really personal is already difficult. Like, you show a lot of yourself, but how do you feel showing it to a different culture, to a different country's audience, compared to showing it to your audience that you might be a bit more familiar with? Is there something a bit more nerve-wracking to showing it to a different culture, or do you feel that it's the same no matter where you go?
I'm Taylor. I think it's probably a big difference of audience. I mean, especially because I know that each theater has a specific audience. And each night has a specific audience, so it's always different. But I think with the cultural difference, I have no idea what's funny. In my piece, for instance, there is a lot of... she really answers to the audience reaction in the part of the piece, and I have no idea, because it will be the premiere, so I have no point of comparison. In a way, I'm scared because it's a premiere, but I don't know. I'm not so much scared about the fact that we show it in Montreal with different culture. But at the same time, I think in France could work. I have no idea if it could work in Montreal. We'll see on Thursday.
I find it very interesting about because of personal aspects and putting this on a stage, and I think I'm used to this. I'm used to going through that. Let's call it vulnerability. Yeah, but actually, this is it's a great step removed for me, because I have two performers. I can sit back in the back row. I can watch this, and I feel as though I'm more curious. Actually, I'm more curious about how this will be received, and whether people will play the game, or whether they will, how can you take different audiences? Can you open yourself up as a performer? Can the work hold communication between different cultures? And I'm we're going to adjust the piece, I think, slightly along the way, and I think the piece will grow as well, because I think you can, coming back to this thing about stand-up, that when they'd go on tour, that their show is changing all the time. And I think that learning from each audience experience, and you will get a different audience the next day anyway, but I think you can create something that's solid enough as a performer, but also open and ready for anything. So, yeah, I'm curious.
Jasper, by the way. Hi. I think it's also... I'm actually less stressed because I don't know the people. So judgment is out for me. I'm really relaxed with it. I think for the audience it's quite exciting because we all make very different work. So it's really, you get a whole palette of 5 visions on how or what dance is or what movement is or what a performance is. So no, I think it's just really, really exciting, and I'm just curious how people would react, but it's not so, I don't feel so vulnerable. It feels more like there's a little bit of a facade between me and the audience in Canada, because I don't know who's going to come and watch. I don't know how they would react. I don't know what kind of audience the theater has here, so I could go and stress about it, but you could also just relax and say, well, we'll see what people think. No? For me it's more like that. It's really relaxing.
That's the first time I've heard a choreographer say, no, it's really relaxing to present my work.
Yeah, but it's so in the moment. If we feel, we feel. If people don't like it, well, they don't like it. I mean, it happens. You cannot agree with everything as an audience. The only thing you can ask from an audience is to be open, perceptive, and willing. And if they are that, they can always find something they could enjoy. Or at least they could form an opinion or get something from the work. Yeah.
Hi, Laura. We did a little exercise before we came out here, just 2 days before our first show, where we had to do the worst show ever. And we had to do the most terrible, awful, wrong show we could.
It was very bad.
So such an interesting experiment. Like, is this bad enough, or what is really bad? And the question after the 40-minute dire, awful, embarrassing thing, which Joe was brave enough to allow the time to let us do, was, well, did you learn anything? And we kind of learned that how much we respect the audience, because it got to a point where there was only about 5 people watching, and you felt like actually you believe that you owe them something, and it's not like I have to perform like a circle, like a seal or something, and I have to show you my tricks. Actually felt like, we're so glad that you're here, and we want to meet you in some way. So halfway through the improv, it felt like, this isn't what I really want. I don't want to reject you and tell you, like, is this not good enough for you? Go home, or don't you like it? Stuff it. You know, it felt like, what can we give you? Like, what is really here that I have, that you want, or that you're giving, that I can receive? And that's such a great thing underneath your nerves, to realize that deep down you just want to meet you want to meet them, you want to meet something. So now we feel that now that's our ideology, like bring it on. It feels much more like, bring it on. We want to meet you. Come to the show.
It's beautiful. I have a bit the same feeling. Like, the process was really closed. I was just working with the composer, and we were like for months just together in the studio, and we had a showing last week at the Maison de la Culture Pointe-aux-Trembles, and it was really, really beautiful to see, like, to open for the first time and people had words which I didn't, because I had almost no distance with the work, and I had a bit the same feeling as Laura described. I felt like it's a sharing, like it's you share what all you have right now. You know, it's gonna evolve. You know, it's gonna change, but you're extremely honest right now with what you have. And I also feel like Jasper said that since it's so diverse, the evening is so diverse that I have the feeling that as a show, like, probably the public will get a satisfaction somewhere. If it's not in my piece, it's going to be in someone else's piece. So I feel it's a chance to be able to be in a show that's so diverse. And yeah, that's it.
Beth.
one thing that struck me when we all met in the 2 weeks residency in Cardiff was that each of the choreographers has a really open and sort of a deeply investigative process, and I think that will be clear no matter what they think of the final process, is that these people have really, really gone into depth in each of their own areas or their own investigation. So I think that people will be able to see that and grasp something from it. So I think it's really exciting that people from completely different countries and backgrounds and experiences have that common thread running through. So yeah, it's been really rich.
One of the things that was just mentioned was the richness of the program, but that's also one of the difficulties when presenting something as part of a showcase, is the audience, not so much for the first piece, but for the second, third, fourth, fifth piece, the audience is already in a mood. There's already something that's been established previously, so it's not a blank slate with the audience. Is this something that you have experience with, of needing to reach the audience and bring them to something maybe completely different from the mood that they were in before? Is this something that stresses you out? Is this something that you feel, maybe for Joe, that's something that you can actually use to your advantage, this idea of like taking them out of the mold that they were in and playing with that? Is this something that has been running through your mind during the creative process or right before presenting?
I don't actually know the order of the program. Do you know?
I think I do.
Yeah.
Scoop.
At some point.
I heard something with floors that need to be changed because I'm being difficult. Sorry. I think you might be opening even.
My piece works in any configuration. No, basically, I think there's very strong identities for each work, and so actually, I don't think it's a problem. It's always a benefit, I think, for the color of each work is very clear, and hopefully the audience will be taken from one place to the next very swiftly. So, yeah.
This is a short answer because I'm talking a lot. I think straight away with our piece, you're not in Kansas anymore. I think we're enabled from the beginning to shift out of what would be a traditional, to do that. We don't have to prepare the things that we would normally prepare.
You have to prepare a whole load of other things, actually.
I think in a way, as a choreographer and as a maker, we can never take for granted how the audience will be. And as a performer as well, I've been on stage and my mind is running, this is not working, it's not happening. Last night was better, they were reacting more. And actually, I don't know. I have no idea how the audience is perceiving the piece. And I think as we said before, I think it's just being open to whatever has to happen, will happen. So I think faith or just let go. I would rather let go to what needs to happen.
We've talked a lot about the ideas behind the pieces and about the cultural differences also. But do you feel that there is a cultural difference in the body, in the way that the body is approached, in the way the body moves, or how it speaks? Do you feel that this is something that can enrich in the work, this showcase, Dance Roads, of seeing the different cultural approaches to the body?
Well, I haven't noticed anything very different yet in Montreal, though. I don't think we can say there is this specific to this country, this specific to this country. I believe it's more about there is as many way of moving as people, though we can make more cases and boxes, but to create a language. I think I lost a bit your question. Can you say it in another way?
So basically, do you guys feel that there is a cultural difference in the approach to the body and the way the body talks, quote unquote? And is this something that you feel enriches a process like Dance Roads? The fact that there's not only a merging of different cultures, but also of cultural approaches to the body.
Jesper, it's very much what Joe said, that I really agree that the body is the first language in a way. and it's so intuitive, and I think that's what we all share mutually. It might express very differently or have a different form, but the language is not so different, because there's a big sense of intuition when you create and when you move and when you're on stage. It's so in the moment. I think we all share that. I don't see a cultural note there. Maybe the way we perceive dance or movement, or the way that we... No, I think intuition is something that's very shared and very mutual, and I think that's not something that's cultural, at least for me. Yeah.
I think it's a human thing. I think it's something that everyone has in common, really, no matter where you go. I think maybe humour can be different, and certainly the way you communicate with words, and perhaps that has some influence on how a gesture might come out. Like me and Laura said in our process, that we felt quite British at times, and maybe that's shifted now, and maybe it will continue to shift because of the place that we're in. But yeah, I think movement and those sensations and things like that are things that all humans share, so perhaps there's more common. Go on, Jo.
I'm from Britain, and I use my body and face a lot more than British people do in order to communicate with people. And I feel, when we go to Italy with this piece, all will make sense. But it's just, I feel like it's an important part of expression. And so actually the place that's kind of odd for me is the reasoning for the piece is to do with Britain and how culturally we kind of quietened, suppressed, or whatever, polite, whatever it is that we want to be. I'm interested in affecting people at home equally. So as I'm really curious about Italy, or maybe we should have done Spain, really, because when you talk about gesture and talk about let's say the passion with how people speak and express themselves, it's different for each country. So yeah, there's a lot to learn, I think, for the piece. Humour, definitely. It might not be funny at all here. We'll see.
Okay, Carol. One of the things about the Dance Rose programme is that each partner selects an innovative choreographer. So we're not actually looking at choreographers to represent the scene in that particular city, although they may well happen to. So it is more about that individual, unique voice. So it is quite hard to sort of say this is the Italian approach or the French approach. So each artist is very unique to themselves. So it's impossible to put a label on it.
I think just to finish to answer to this, I would say in a dance field, I would say it comes from a lot from the background. So what did you do before? That like how you grew up, and what's your body language with your family, and then it goes like sports or not. Like everything like comes and put a stones to how I am now, and like what in dance education, no dance education, like freelance, and like every experience is like shapes the interaction with the body. And I would say, yeah, as I said before, like 6 or 7 billion of people. No, billion? Yes, billion of people is 7 billions of history, of body history and language history. And that's what we work on as choreographer, is to challenge this history and how can we make a new one and a new experience.
And even if I can add up on that, I feel we're all having a contemporary approach to dance, because even me, if I trained as a flamenco dancer for 10 years, but I don't feel like I represent flamenco, or I feel like we're all infused by what we did, as Taylor said, but we come with a contemporary look, and it's probably obvious to say, but I guess because it's such a open world, I don't know how we say that, but now that there are so many sharing between the countries, that I think it's harder to point what is traditional or what is cultural, but it's more individual approaches. Maybe it's obvious to say, but I feel it's quite present in all the pieces and how we look at the pieces. It's more individual approaches than country approaches. Yeah.
Okay, so Carol, what's interesting about this project is that it is it's 4 European countries and Canada, so there's sort of that international element, and the fact that we premiere in Montreal, it really gives kudos to Canada, and it's great that Canada has sort of maintained this essentially European network. They're the longest running partner. Wales is the second longest. It's a high five to Canada for keeping something that is essentially a European network going. And it's great that Canada has, has reached out.
Well, it's a real pleasure to have you all here with us today, and also a pleasure to have the premiere be here in Montreal, the studio du Monument National. Just a reminder, Dance Roads Bande d'Essai Internationaux is running the 8th, 9th, and 10th of May at 7:30. For more information, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, you can visit danceroads.eu. danceroads.eu. I'm so used to .ca, guys. I'm sorry. So it's the 25th anniversary, so join us for this very rich and diverse show. So thank you so much, and merde.
Dirty Feet is recorded every week at the Montreal Improv Theatre. Check them out at montrealimprov.com.
Dirty Feet est produit et animé par,
produced and hosted by Allison Burns,
JD Papillon,
et Stéphanie Morin-Robert.
You can find out more about our show at nomoreradio.com, follow us on Twitter at Dirty Feet, and find us on Facebook at Dirty Feet Podcast.
Vous pouvez écouter tous nos épisodes sur notre site web ou vous pouvez vous abonner également sur iTunes à notre podcast.
Listen to past episodes on the website or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes.
While you're there, be sure to give us a rating and or leave a comment to help us spread the word.
Tune in next week for a whole new show.